l'évaluation du baccalauréat. So how is the baccalauréat assessed? Le baccalauréat 2021, and it's particularly called the 2021 baccalauréat because that's the first time that people will actually be assessed on it. They started back in September 2018. That was when they were in seconde. Then they went to première in September 19. Then they were in terminale in September 20. So they'll be taking it in 2021. Le baccalauréat 2021 reposera, will be based on à la fois both un contrôle continu, continuous assessment, et sur des épreuves terminales and on terminal exams. Ce nouveau baccalauréat, so this new baccalauréat, is going to valoriser, so it's going to take account of it, it'll give worth to it, it'll recognize la régularité de votre travail, the regularity of your work, et mieux vous accompagner and better support you dans la conception de votre projet d'orientation de façon à préparer dès maintenant votre réussite dans l'enseignement supérieur. So that's going to help you getting ready for your, whichever pathway you're going to, getting ready to be successful in higher education. So this particular chart is showing you how the bac général is going to be evaluated, assessed. It's very similar to the technology one, which I will show you in a minute. Let's look at how the various elements are assessed. I'm going to talk it through, and I'm absolutely fine about anybody getting back to me to tell me if I've misunderstood anything here. So this is for the new Général, bac général, first of all. There are here on this side épreuves communes de contrôle continu. These are all tests which are done under the idea of a controlled assessment. But in fact, what happens is that the students will be given some tests which are from a bank, or if there's a bank of tests, the teachers, the head of centre actually decides which of the tests are going to be used, and they give them at a time when they want to do that, and the students in the end will get the average mark of these subjects that they've taken for each of the subjects. So what are the subjects that are going to be done in this way? You've got here the ones which are in the core. Do you remember that you've got particular options that you do, 3 in the première and 2 in the terminale, but there are lots of other subjects that you do as well. So everyone will do enseignement scientifique, histoire géo, langue vivante A, langue vivante B, EPS. So those are in the common core. So there will be some form of assessment for those. I've got a feeling actually that the EPS is an ongoing thing the whole year, and the others are the ones which are tested separately. And do you know what this means? Coef. It's coefficient, a coefficient. So out of 100%, will count 5% towards your whole baccalauréat. 5%. 5%. Also included in this controlled assessment is one of the specialities which you do, which you then don't go on to do into terminale. So in première you choose 3 specialities that you want to do. At some point during that year you're going to decide which are the ones that you want to take through to the upper 6, to the terminale. For the one that you don't take through, that will be tested in the première, and it'll get this coefficient 5, so there'll be a coefficient of 5 for that. Also ongoing, 10% goes for your regular bulletin scolaire, for your school reports of première et terminale. So this is the idea about rewarding la régularité de votre travail. So you will get 10% to do with the ongoing work that you do. So I hope that that's helped there. So that all adds up to 40%. Then you get your épreuves terminales, which are the final tests. They're ones which are done under exam conditions, which are not continuous assessment. So what are they, and when do you take those? Well, everybody does philosophie, whichever series that you go for, whichever group that you go for. So everyone's going to sit an exam, and that's got a coefficient of 8%. everyone does something called a grand oral, and that's where you'll have picked a topic that you're particularly interested in, and you go along and you speak for, I think it's about 20 minutes, and that takes a 10% coefficient. Do you remember you had 3 specialities in the première, 2 in the terminale? The 2 that you take through to the terminale, with those you're going to take exams in them where they will have a coefficient of 16, 16%, 16%. So the one that you did for the last year is half of that, isn't it? It was actually less than half, 5%. And then the other thing, which might look a bit confusing, is that everybody does French, written and oral. So whatever pathway you go for, everyone does that, and that'll be 10% in total. But it says épreuves anticipées en première. That means that you actually sit that exam when you're in the première, in the lower 6. So let's go on to see how is that different for the technologique. Okay, so technologique, I've actually highlighted what the differences are for you. I'd forgotten I'd done that. It's helpful. So on the left-hand side here, it's exactly as it was. But the difference is that they do you remember mathématiques is the core subject they do, rather than here the scientifique, it's mathématiques. Right. And then on the right-hand side, what's different here, philosophie takes a coefficient of 4, whereas it was 8 here, 4, 8. So 4. And then the grand oral takes a coefficient of 14, whereas here it was 10. The other thing to note, which I found a bit, I had to get my head around, was that they talked about général, the bac général, as having these enseignements de spécialité, and it's very straightforward. You could see that you chose 3 you did in the première and 2 in the terminale. But then they said, oh, but the série, you've still got the série for the bac. But in fact, as you saw when I looked at the technologique one, those series are broken down into spécialité. So they determine that you will do 3 of them in the première and 2 of them in the terminale. And again, if I'm wrong on that, I'd like someone to be able to, please, by all means, tell me that I'm wrong. So, to recap, récapitulons, let us recap. Le baccalauréat 2021 repose. So, what does it rest on? Pour une part, sur un contrôle continu. So, one part of it is on continuous assessment, ça c'est 40%. Et pour une autre part, sur des épreuves terminales, 60%. So, les épreuves, where do they take place? What are they? L'épreuve anticipée, écrite et orale de français se déroulera en fin de première. So, it's at the end of the première that you sit your written and spoken French. Et en terminale and in terminale, the upper 6, 2 épreuves écrites portant sur les enseignements de spécialité. So, you do your 2 speciality subjects which you've chosen, and that happens au printemps, in the spring. And then 2 épreuves se déroulent en juin, so 2 take place in June. L'écrit de philosophie, so the philosophy written one that everyone does, et l'oral, what they call le grand oral, the big oral, préparé au long des années de première et terminale, and that's been prepared all through the première and the terminale. And then for our continuous assessment, le contrôle continu, composé d'évaluations communes organisées pendant le cycle terminal. So there will be these common assessments, ones which come from a bank of assessments. So the teacher doesn't just make them up. They're ones which are from a bank of assessments, and they are given out, and you get the average of the average. And talking about that, how do you pass the baccalauréat? Le bac est obtenu à partir d'une moyenne générale de 10 sur 20. So when you average everything out, as long as you get at least half of it, you have your baccalauréat. So how do you get graded for your baccalauréat? If you get over 10 or over, then it's a bac. And it's a bac sans mention, without any sort of grade, entre 10 et 12 sur 20. Puis entre 12 et 14 sur 20, c'est mention assez bien. Entre 14 et 16, c'est mention bien. Et puis 16 et plus, c'est mention très bien. Et puis, félicitations du jury, Si c'est plus de 18 sur 20 et dossier scolaire parfait, ainsi que la moyenne générale très élevée tout au cours du cursus. And if you are unfortunate and just slip below the 10, there is a chance to be able to catch up les épreuves de rattrapage pour les lycéens qui obtiennent entre 8 et 10 sur 20 de moyenne générale à l'examen.